Now, my father, we'll find out about money. Um, his father was an alcoholic and a gambler, so he thought he would never repeat that same pattern. As this Mandelbrot set explains, is there's patterns within patterns within patterns. This has been one of the driving forces behind my study, is trying to find a way to break out of that cycle. And found out that there's no information out there that actually understands how to break out of this cycle. It's all a perpetuation. As anybody that comes up with the idea of how do you break out of this cycle, it's all basically cope and deal and accept. But dealing with money and finding out how you get addicted to money is your genetics. It's always good to understand your past, understand your DNA, understand where you came from. Respect your elders, because they got a story to tell that makes you who you are. If you don't understand your past, you'll never understand your future. You'll never understand how to break out of these cycles. So not communicating with your parents is kind of your worst enemy, because you'll never understand yourself. You'll never understand what made you who you are. You'll think that you are going to break out of this cycle, but you're actually going to perpetuate the cycle. So my grandfather on my father's side, being an alcoholic and a gambler and financially successful, I mean, the man eventually gambled his house away. He had 10 kids, but gambled his house away. My father never was an alcoholic. Never had a drinking problem. He could drink, but never drank in excess. Really was determined to break out of that addiction, but he was very much addicted to money. He worked very hard. Ironically, he started off working for Thomson Newspapers, which is one of the first major newspapers on the planet. He started in Timmins, Ontario. And he went up the ladder, you know, being a really, really hard worker and always supporting his family. He taught his kids, or really tried to teach his kids, that you gotta work hard. You gotta work hard. I mean, he basically taught his kids how to be perfect little slaves by you gotta work really, really hard. And never really knew what the meaning of life was. Didn't know how to actually enjoy family. Didn't know how to love family. And that was my biggest objection with my father, is the more he kept trying to push me to be rich and wealthy, I thought the only way I'll ever accept my father's love is if I was rich and wealthy. But never ever got to be that wealthy person, mostly because it wasn't my core belief. I really knew that meaning of love. I really, from that first 3 years of knowing what love really felt like, I knew that there was something a hell of a lot more important. You know, the loving of another human being, you know, being held and cared for. And clearly I didn't know everything about love because I was selfish. I didn't know how to give love. I just was a master at receiving love prior to being 3. But my whole other life experience was learning my own selfishness, I guess. And we're all dealing with that. We're all wanting to receive love, but we don't know how to give love. And the true meaning of love is when you know how to give it away. If you're just receiving, then you're lacking love. So clearly, while I was enjoying all of this love, I was actually lacking love because I didn't know how to give it away. I didn't know how to share it. So my father basically created his own nightmares. He thought that all he had to do is constantly emotionally abuse you, constantly degrade you, constantly tell me that I was no good, I had nothing to offer, Yet he wanted me to be successful. And it's like, if he only seen how much harm he did, that if he only built me up, if he only told me what I was good at, if he only supported me at things that I was good at, I would have been more successful. But then, if he attached it to money, then I might have been very successful and turned into him. So it's a double-edged sword there. But that's where I think most of these really, really rich people are, is you're nothing unless you have money. Work really hard, earn that money, then, save for a rainy day. All of these life rules dealing with money gets you addicted to money. It makes you have, money is so much more important than human life. It's actually psychopathic that while my father, didn't have the addiction to alcoholism, he had the addiction to money. And his addiction to money made him not value his own family. He was lacking love. He didn't, and ultimately at the end, he's living a very, very lonely life, is not receiving any love because he doesn't know how to give love. And that's why he has to be on these antidepressants. His life is depressed because he's lacking love. He doesn't need medication. He needs to learn how to love himself and then learn how to love other people. If he did that, he wouldn't need medication. The man is on a whole pile of other medication now that he's getting older, because all of the ways he lives his life, all of the ways that he doesn't know how to love himself, is creating a lot of health issues. He suffers from diabetes, for one, and that he's determined not to need medication for it, but he's needing medication. And what does the man do? He loves his candies, loves, the sweet stuff in life, always has to have the best stuff, but the stuff is actually killing him, and he can't see that. He doesn't believe in exercise. Diabetes is definitely related to your eating habits, the quality of food that you eat. If you love yourself and you feed yourself with good things in your life, it will create a healthy body. But the man doesn't know how to love himself. He will only eat what he loves eating and not necessarily what's good for him. Not to say you have to eat bad things. It's why do you need to eat sugar? If you're filling your body up with that much sugar, you won't know how to love other foods. He worked really hard, wanted to become a millionaire and retire by the time he was 50. And his idea of retirement is sitting on a couch watching TV and just getting the brainwashing from television. The man doesn't even like going for a walk, although that's the only form of exercise he does now, is go for a walk around a mall where he can get more stuff, which he doesn't like spending his money because he likes having his money. So the man is so trapped in his own insanity that's creating all of his health problems. It's creating all of the reasons why he needs to have a whole pile of pills, all the reasons why he's not able to love other people or receive any love, because he doesn't know how to love himself. He's creating his own hell through his addiction to money. And also he hates women. Always degrading women. Needs to have sex. He gave that up too, because he wasn't going to get any sex because he was lacking love. It's kind of hard to make love to somebody when you're, if he hates his wife and degrades his wife all the time, eventually she's not going to feel good about herself enough to have sex with anybody. So it's like, hey, the need for sex, as much as males do, is because you're lacking love, and you've attached sex to love, because actually that's what it is. When you love life, you create life. So that's when you have sex, is because you are loving another human being, and you're creating, out of that love, you create another human being. But right now, we are creating life out of a lack of love. So That's why we're getting a massive overpopulation. We create a lot of unwanted babies because it is made out of a lack of love. And some of these things that my father has always said, which is ironic, is always complained about women on welfare. Ironically, both his daughters are now on a disability welfare system, mostly because he basically brainwashed us to be that way. He never said anything good about us, never supported us, never listened to what our purpose was in life, which we were all trying to tell him, hey, love life, but he didn't want to love life. He wanted to love money. And so he programmed his daughters to not believe in themselves, not to feel like they had any purpose whatsoever, to make us feel like we were the scum of the earth. And so we are. He wanted, he never really realized that there's a cause why people are on welfare. And basically it is. You want to tell society you're no good. Eventually they're no good for anything. They start to believe they're no good. So while they don't believe they're any good, they are not productive. So it doesn't matter how many different levels of reasons why people are on a welfare system. The fact that you keep telling them that they're no good means that, well, if I'm no good, watch me be no good. It's like you're creating your own hell. And meanwhile, it's the people that are addicted to money, that are paying taxes, that are paying for this system that you hate so much. And it's like, why don't you see what you're doing to society? You are creating your worst fears. But then kind of look at, why would my father hate women so much? Why would he hate his wife while he says he loves them? Why would he hate his daughters while he says he loves us? And going back in his own history, you can see that, well, his father had 10 kids. His father was a gambler and an alcoholic, and I'm pretty sure the last thing he ever wanted to do was support 10 kids. The man didn't know that his lack of love, because if you're having an addiction, it's because you're lacking love within yourself. So whatever reasons that led to the pain in my grandfather's life, that his pain reliever was his alcohol, it ultimately was a lack of love within himself, a lack of respect, a lack of responsibility. He created his own pain. So then that led to sex. Clearly, if the man has 10 kids, the man was having sex. So he's not attaching himself to, hey, you participated in having these 10 kids. No, he put his hate towards his wife, my grandmother, that, she trapped him into having all of these kids. And it's like, you know what, if you didn't have sex, you wouldn't have had those 10 kids. He didn't take self-responsibility for what he created in his life. Ultimately, he created a trap that he actually hated, so then therefore he hated women. And what did the man do? He had 8 girls and 2 boys. So it's, and then my father, who took over the father role, went to work and handed his paycheck to his siblings, 8 girls, which, he's the hero. All of them really, really love my father because he was so giving to them. But the only reason he was giving to them is because it made him look like a hero. He was very attached to that hero concept. That's the psychopathic behavior, is you need to appear like you're smarter than everybody else. You need to appear like you're the hero as you're destroying them. So, that perpetuated his psychopathic behaviors by having these siblings always tell him how great he was. No matter how horrible of a person he was, all of his family kept telling him how much of a hero he was, how great he was. But it was empty because he really wasn't loving his family. It was a lack of love. He wasn't a hero for good reasons. He was he was a hero for bad reasons. He wasn't doing it because he loved his family. He did it because he felt like he was obligated. And so it definitely created hell. And in the meantime, I have one brother, ironically, who's financially successful, but ironically, he's a gambler and thought he'd make some money in the stock market, lost his shirt doing that one. He also is an alcoholic. and has a little bit of a drug problem. But he's the hero to my father, while his daughters are complete failures on a welfare system. And it's like, where did it begin? Look at the messages my father gave his kids. Peace out.